Hello everybody, welcome to Talk About Houses. I'm Todd.
I'm Oana.
We are going to talk about open houses.
Yes.
Realtor open houses. Real estate agents do open houses. They do them for a number of reasons. You probably are very aware, all of you, whether you've bought a house ever or not, because you see the signs that say open house. So Oana, let's start with, why are some reasons a real estate agent would do an open house?
So probably the number one reason that agents do an open house is because it's a good way to generate business.
Yeah.
So that means that if I am a real estate agent, particularly if I'm new to the business or new to a market, and I put up a sign, this is an invitation for people to come visit me, and maybe they're interested in buying a house, maybe they're interested in selling their house and they're just snooping in the neighbor's house to see what's going on. But one way or another, it's a way for me as a real estate agent to connect with consumers, make some friends, and maybe get some business.
They're back in about 12 plus years ago or so, when Oana and I were real estate coaches, there was a guy in Oakland who literally he used to get about 60 leads every open house. And the way that he did it was, first of all, he had about 40 signs that went up over a square. I think they spent an hour. They had 3 or 4 people on the team all putting out the signs, and they would put out the signs pointing everybody to the house. And then they had a whole system. He would have agents on his team in the house, and then when people would come in the house, they would immediately say, hey, first thing you have to do is sign in, give us all your information, and then you had to be with one of the agents on the team to walk through the house. And then they would start, they had a whole bunch, and people coming through didn't realize this, but it was a whole script of questions. And they would ask you these qualifying questions as you were walking through the house to try to evaluate your actual, whether you were going to potentially be a buyer. Are you working with a real estate agent? You have to house to sell first, things like that. And it was kind of and I'm pretty sure that he's still doing it, but it was a big deal because he actually had a really good open house system down. And, he said that they probably, like almost every time they did an open house, it was a full day event. That literally was, they would have a client out of that they would sell a house to at some point in the future, like guaranteed. So it was kind of a good use of 3 hours of the day.
Right. And then what they would do is, if the people said, well, this house doesn't fit our needs and that sort of thing, then they would ask more probing questions, and then they would go ahead and get moving with them and take them out to see other houses in the area that might fit their needs better. If they didn't have time then they would set an appointment for a future time to go look at houses. So that was the way that they acquired clients, and it was effective, it was efficient, and it was a good way to generate business, and it still is. And
the other thing too is, and you'll see this is very common to open houses, there'll be a lender there who will actually potentially say, if you just fill out this piece of paper, and we'll just pull your credit. We'll see if you qualify, if you could buy a house, or what price range you could buy based on your, just some rough information. How much did you make last year? Things like that. And then they could effectively qualify you and say, pre-qualify you and say, hey, you could actually go buy a house in our market, whatever. So that's one reason real estate agents do open houses. They do it because they're looking for business.
Right.
Okay. They also can get business from other people that live in the area, because all of a sudden you drive into your neighborhood, you're coming back from the store or whatever, and you see the open house. So you decide, oh wow, that's the neighbor down the street. I think I'll just walk in and check out the house. So you walk in and you of course meet the agent. You just up front, usually they say, oh yeah, I just live down the street. I just wanted to check it out, right? And then there's a whole list of questions they would ask the person. Oh, so how long have you lived in the house? If you moved, where would you go? If you did move, do you have an agent that would help you, or is that something you would want us to help you with? They would go through these questions, and then usually if they could figure out which house they lived in, they would send them marketing, right? Hey, we met. Here's some. I'll put you on my newsletter, stuff like that, and then you could continue to get. And the goal, of course, is to get more listings out of it than just buyers. Get some listings and sort of dominate the area. There was another agent that I coached, and he really focused on one area, and he was actually the number 2 agent. And it was like Summerlin, but it was not as big. It was a smaller area, but it was probably a tenth of the size of Summerlin, but it was still about probably 4 or 5 square miles. And it was a really nice community. And he was number 2 in that because he just really focused on open houses and things in that area. Now, another reason an agent might do an open house is because the seller is basically telling them they want open houses.
Right. So sellers have traditionally felt that open houses are a good way to get their home sold. We just went through the first reason why we do open houses, so you can see that that's probably not necessarily true. It doesn't necessarily get your home sold, but sellers certainly feel that way, and listing agents want to make sure that their sellers are happy, and a lot of times they will put in their listing agreement, if open houses are important to the seller, how many open houses they're committing to doing. And you know that that's not necessarily something that agent wants to do when they put in the listing agreement that they will do X number of open houses. That says, Mr. Seller, I'll do this number of open houses because this is important to you, but not because it's something I believe in. Otherwise, if the agent believed in those open houses, then they would certainly be willing to do a lot more of them.
Open houses can cause problems. We have this thing in real estate called procuring cause. And what it is it's the old adage of who actually sold the house. And so here's the scenario. You're out looking for houses with an agent who you've hired an agent, you're driving around looking for houses. You haven't signed an agreement or anything, but they've taken out, see 3 or 4 houses. And then they drive up and they see your open house. So they come into the open house, they talk to you. You say, hey, maybe you want to make an offer? They go, yeah, we might want to make an offer. This is really nice. You ask them, are you working with an agent? They go, yeah, well, I had somebody show me some houses, but we didn't sign anything. We're not committed to that person. So, if it was a good deal and we could do it with just a different agent or you, we would do it. And then let's say that they decide to use the agent at the open house, whether it's the agent listing the house or agent on the team or some other agent altogether. Because one of the things you don't realize is that agent at the open house may not be the listing agent. They may not be at the same company as a listing agent. They just have to get permission from the other broker to do it, right? So they make an offer, they buy the house, and then let's say before closing, the other agent that was showing him houses calls and says, hey, I see you're under contract with that house, and my client said he's buying it. I actually had it on the list. I emailed him the house and say, we're going to see this house tomorrow, but he went the day before. I'm the procuring cost because I informed him of the house. I told him it was on the market. We talked about what we potentially make an offer for if we bought the house. He just went there early and met you. And then the agents can end up in a fight over the commission. So it can kind of be a hassle. We've actually had and this does happen, the agent has been in the house. They leave the house and say, it wasn't that great. We like these other houses. But then later on, maybe they decide not to work with that agent. And they say, you know what? I really did like that house that we went and saw. Let's go back because there's an open house. And you go back to the open house, you buy the house with let's say the listing agent. And then the other agent finds out about it and says, I took him in. I was the first agent to take him in the house. And then they're going to try to potentially go after the commission. So that they're not necessarily great for agents. It's one of the reasons why agents won't do them a lot of times, because it would be terrible to hold a house open, get a buyer out of it, and then find out some other agent's actually trying to say they're my agent, I want the commission.
Right. So the other reason why agents will do an open house is, particularly in today's market, is as an efficient way to get as many people through the house as possible. I've been to several houses during this whole crazy time over the last 18 months where literally people are standing in line outside the house at an open house waiting to go in, and the line, I'm not joking, is about 3.5 hours long. Now remember, this is Las Vegas. It's over 100 degrees outside and people are standing in line. It is the craziest thing ever. But it does happen, and it is an efficient way to get as many people through the house as possible, particularly with more buyers than the market can absorb right now, and such low inventory.
So a way to think of it is like the new home subdivisions, when you go through the sales office and you have your real estate agent with you, and then you walk through and you'll be in the house, and you won't be the only one in the house. Mm-hmm. Okay. For a while during COVID, when we had really strict COVID restrictions, they would say only one person could be in the house at a time. So you could be there with the client, or client could be there with the agent, but you couldn't have other people. Mm-hmm. But normally you'll walk in and you'll be like, there'll be 4 other people in the house looking at the same time. So what you can do with an open house is you can say, we're not going to have showings, but we're going to have an open house 3 days a week between the hours of noon and 3, right? And then that way you can actually not have to worry about the lockbox, and the agents having to lock it and unlock it every time. Because what other thing that can happen is, in a hot market, is the key can disappear. Yeah. It's very common. The agent just locks the door, puts the key in their pocket, not realizing it, drives away. We've had this happen many, many times. Mm-hmm. Or they just leave the key in the house and then they lock the door behind them when they walk out and they forget about that they set the key on the counter, right? Many times I've had calls from agents saying, you know what, I've got a key in my pocket and I'm pretty sure it came from, I show 4 listings and yours is one of them. I don't know if it came from your listing. And we always say, well, you better drive back, or we'll get someone to call and say there's no key. And then we'll go back and look at who showed it last and say, hey, there's no key. Now, people are trying to see the house and they can't see it because another agent took the key. So it can be, an open house can be an efficient way to get more people through the house in a hot market. Mm-hmm. But really, if you're the seller, does that really help you? Because so you get 15 offers, right? Right.
You only have one house to sell and you only need one good offer. Just remember that.
Yeah, this whole fascination of the bidding up and all that, in my experience, it doesn't really work that well. And this is why. The high bids tend to not always be the people that close on the house. I can tell you anecdotally that they're not. And the reason they're not is because usually what happens is they're not usually the cash buyers. Mm-hmm. And if they are, at some point they get buyer remorse and realize they overpaid, or maybe they don't want to pay that much. And if it's somebody who's getting a loan, then a lot of times what happens is the lender goes, oh, well, yeah, but the appraisal's going to come in lower and you're going to have to come in with an extra $23,000. And they go, oh, I don't want to do that. Maybe I overpaid. I just got excited. I really wanted the house, but now I don't want to pay that much for the house, whatever. So sometimes getting people excited and overbidding like that doesn't necessarily help you.
Right.
Sometimes you're better off with just a reasonable list price and then getting a reasonable offer in selling it that way.
Right. The idea is that you will get the right price for the house, and you don't need 55 offers to go through them. Because remember, even if you get 55 offers, you may not always choose the offer that's going to close. And that's what you're after. You're after the best offer that's actually going to be able to close at the end of the day.
Another reason, or another thing to think about, is that, remember, with open houses, you don't really know who these people are. Mm-hmm. So unless you're taking a picture of their driver's license or something, you can't supervise everybody. And this actually happened in an open house here in Vegas. So what happened was, the couple came into the house. There was the agent downstairs. They were talking to the agent. The other person went upstairs and went through drawers, the medicine cabinet, went through that bedroom and grabbed a bunch of, apparently they had something of value, maybe some jewelry that was there, whatever, and grabbed it and then left. And then at the end of the open house, and all they did was say sign in. So they just wrote some name and phone number, but you don't know who they are. And then what happened afterwards was the people said, hey, I'm missing a bunch of stuff. Did you supervise everyone at the open house? And they're like, yeah, I've got a list of people. And then, there was the one time when I was just talking to the wife or the husband or whatever, and the wife went upstairs really quick and came back down. And so you just don't know. Mm-hmm. And so unless your house is really, you've moved out and it's just staged, mm-hmm. I'm not sure that I preferred it. Me personally, I don't know. If I was not a real estate agent and some agent said they want to do an open house, I probably wouldn't let them do it. I don't know that I've ever had an open house done on any homes of mine. So there are good things about it and there's bad things about it.
Right.
So as you can see.
And particularly, when you do have an open house, you do need to make sure that you understand that there will be multiple people in the house and maybe they've got kids. So now you've got mom, dad, and 3 kids, and it's like herding cats. I mean, I don't care that you've got 1 or 2 agents there. Unless you have one agent for every single person that walks in through that door, there's going to be chaos in the house. And if you're still living there, that may not be what you really want for your house. And
if you're a homeowner demanding open houses because your house isn't selling, I can tell you right now, your house isn't selling because it's overpriced. So your agent is not going to force a person to overpay for your house because they're doing an open house. They're not doing open houses. It doesn't work that way. It's a the person who says, well, we had an open house one time in a house I sold somewhere, and the person that came in bought the house and they paid a lot of money, and I want to replicate that. No, it was a fluke. Okay, that's not how it works. In the 3,000 plus listings that we've sold, how many do you think we sold because someone came into an open house, honestly?
If it's a handful, that's probably a lot.
5 or 10 maybe, out of 3,000.
Yes.
So you're wasting everybody's time. Like I said, and Oana had mentioned, it's great for agents to gather leads for another potential client.
But again, it is an efficient way to get people through your house, particularly if you don't want a lockbox on the house and if you have limitations on showing the house. So if that's the only way that you are going to have your home shown because you don't want it shown, at will, so to speak, or by appointment, so to speak, throughout the week, and you only want to show your house on Saturday between 12 and 3, then that would be an efficient way to get through that process.
Yep. If you made it all the way to the end of the very lengthy video we just did, thanks. Appreciate it. Please like it, share it, hit the notification bell, and leave us your comments because we love your comments.
Absolutely. And if you have a house to sell in Vegas, give us a shout and we'll see what we can do to help you.
All right. We will see you on the next video. Bye.